Hello, welcome to this presentation, which is a part 3 of how to use the Phase Manager in Tekla Structures. But before we proceed, we want to change this rafter beam, the rafter conventional beams, to castellated beams. A reason why we're doing this is just because our span is too big. It's close to 40 meters, and the reason why we want to castellate these rafter beams is to reduce the weight they exert on the columns. We need the rafter to be a little bit lighter due to this span. Now what we are going to do, we have three things to tackle here. We want to castellate the beams and place these Gable columns this side and the other side, and we also want to place the tie beams in between the columns. That's all. Then the next will tell you in the next presentation, and the first thing we're going to do is to castellate the beams. Now what we're going to do, we'll go straight into this rafter, and we will do our marking where we intend to start our castellation of the beam. Though I thought of it late when I've already made the second presentation, but the castellation of beams are normally done prior to making all these joints. But this is another way of approaching it in case you jumped a step higher before doing another work. Now just follow this and I'll show you how to create those, or how to convert these conventional beam to a castellated beam. Reason to reduce the weight of the beam. Now we'll start off here by going to edit. I'll come to points. On points, I'll go to any position. Under any position, I'll zoom very close to a particular point I intend to place a mark. I'll place my mark there as a point and run all the way to the top end. To the top end, run all the way to the top end and place it there perfectly. Having done that, I want to get the midpoint between these 2 points. What I'm going to do, I'm going to edit and come back to points and pick the first one, online. This online will get me the midpoint between these 2 points. This point and this point. I'll get the midpoint there. I'll right click and interrupt that command, or just to end that command. Now from here, I want to copy these 3 points to a location of my preference. I'll select that by pressing Ctrl, then right click and come to copy. I'm using copy because I might place it on a wrong spot and undo and come back and pick it again. So that's why I'm not using move. Now I'll pick it from this spot. From that spot, I'll just zoom closer. I want to snap it here, right there. Let me just zoom out. There we are. And from here I want to change the orientation of my axis. I want to change, I'll come to view and the work plane tool, and I'll snap on top there to enable these XY axis, take the orientation or the slope of the rafter. Now from here I want to select on these points I've just copied here, I'll right click and click copy. Not the right. I want to use linear copy command. I'll select that and this. Then I'll right click and come to copy, special copy. I'll pick linear. Then on the x-axis, I'll change that to 200, and on the y-axis I'll take that to 0, and I want a span. I just need one of these, and that's it. I'll click copy and accept that. Now between this and this I need a midpoint. A midpoint, I'll come to view, and the view I'll pick online, then snap right there and snap right here. I have the midpoint between these two, and I want another point just to guide me in marking a polygon kind of cut that I'll made on this beam, representing a castellation of this beam. Now I'll pick on this, right click and come to copy and pick this from that spot and run all the way to that bottom end perfectly. Now I want to pick this again, right click and come to copy and copy it from that spot, giving it a direction downward by 100. By 100, there we are. Then I'll do the same here. I'll pick that, right click and click copy from that spot to that spot. Now I need a guideline on top here. I'll pick this, I'll right click and click copy from this spot to that spot right there. Now from here I want to copy this from this spot to this end, 50. That's it. I'll right click and do the same thing the other end, pick that from this spot right there and place that one there. Perfect. Now I'm going to pick these 2 points. I'll press Ctrl and select all the 2 points. I'll right click and click copy and copy it from the midpoint here and bring it here. Perfectly done. And now I'll be able to delete this because these were just the guide points, and delete this also. Not deleting that, we now delete this because they were just the guiding points. Then no longer of use. Now I'll come to polygon cut. The moment you click on polygon cut, the program will ask you to select the object to cut. I'll select this, then I'll start my cutting point from that spot, run all the way to that spot. I'll come all the way to that spot and join up with that spot, run all the way to that spot, join with this, come all the way to that spot and close my polygon. I've made a cut there. I'll right click. Now I want to copy the same this side just to make my work a bit easy. Now to do that, I'll have to change or give my XY axis an orientation that will enable me mirror this on this end. Now I'll come to view, I'll come to work plane, I'll snap right here. I want to be a bit accurate on this. This has to be done accurately, unless we'll come up with something very strange. Snap right at the corner here, right there. Right click and interrupt that. Now I'll select that cut, press Control, right click, then mirror, then use this as your mirror line. Just snap on top there, come all the way to this end and click there, then come and copy that. It hasn't copied properly. I'll undo this and do it once again. I'll select that, I'll press Control and pick bit of that, then come here and right click, mirror, from that spot to that spot and click copy. Just copied, then right click and interrupt that. Then from here we want to change the orientation of our axis. I'll come to work plane tool and give my XY axis the slope of the rafter. I'll click on that spot, right click and come off or out of that work plane tool command. Now I want to populate this along this rafter. Now I'll click on this and press Control and pick one face of this or two faces of that. Once you've done that, you'll right click again and come to Special Copy and go to Linear and check the orientation and make sure your interval measurement between every polygon a bit moderately reasonable. Then I'll feed the 300 on x-axis. I need 58 of this. 58 of that. I'll push this aside and go ahead and click OK or copy. Let's wait for it to effect that. This depends on the speed of your computer. It needs a bit higher specs. Just give it time. It will give us the required result. Considering that we've fed the right information here and here. Let's just wait. Once we are done with this side, we'll come on this side. Then we'll populate all these to the rest of the columns that are attached to the rafter. Let's just give it time. It will respond. Okay, there we are. It has been done. You go ahead and click OK and just zoom out and you'll be able to see actually whatever has been done is right. Come to navigate. You can rotate this about that spot and see that the beam has been castellated. Now the beam will be a bit lighter than before. Now we'll do the same thing this side by changing the orientation of the XY axis. We'll come to work plane tool and change the orientation again. Then now this time round we'll select on this. We'll select on that. Press Control and pick at least a face. Then right click, come to Special Copy, Linear. And prior to invoking any copy command, please make sure your XY axis or make sure you've noted the axis you are trying to populate or copy along. Now I'm trying to copy along the x-axis, so my dimensions remain the same. I'll just go ahead and click copy and wait for the result. Okay, there we are. It has been copied. Now we'll just go ahead and click OK. Right click and come out of that command by right clicking, then going to interrupt, which will end that command. Now we've done this, and it will be time consuming. I tell you, it will be really time consuming to do the same thing to the rest of the rafters. Now the best way to do this, we will delete the rest and populate this along the x-axis, along the y-axis. Now I'll switch back to my plan view. Now on my plan view, I'll be able to delete all this. I'll be able to highlight all that. After highlighting, I just go straight and click delete. All of them will be deleted except the one I've not selected. It has been deleted. Now if I switch back to my isometric view, you will see I have this and I have that. A reason why I didn't select it, because I didn't want to interfere with these pad footings. Now I'll select on that now and delete it. Now from here, I want to pick on this, and prior to selecting that, I want to change my work plane tool to that. Now it is XY axis. Now I want to select the two rafters and populate them along the Y axis. I'll right click after selecting all that, then come to special copy. I'll come to linear. Then at the moment, X axis will not help us a lot. We'll just change that to 0, then come to Y axis, which is 6 meters, an interval of 6 meters to each column. Then change this to 24, because there are 24 columns and we have one rafter already, so this add it to 25, so there's no need of making it 25. Now note that our x-axis, our y-axis is along the total length of our model. Now we'll just go ahead and click copy and wait for the result. Perfect, it has perfectly copied. Now we can go ahead and click OK. We'll right click and come to interrupt to disable that copy command. Let's just zoom out and you'll be able to see everything has been copied in the right position. Now we can go ahead and right click, left click and right click on an empty screen and come to redraw view and redraw. I'll remind you again, this means to refresh your model. I'll come to navigate and rotate this, turn that round. We've castellated the rafters to reduce the weight because of a wider span. It's perfectly done. It's neatly done. And please note that our face as rafter beam has not changed. If you go to face manager and come to rafter beams and click on object face, they will be highlighted as the rafter beams. They'll be highlighted as rafter beams. There you are. They've been highlighted as rafters, leaving out the haunch. This will make it easy for you. Once you've selected this, you just go ahead and run the shop drawings for these rafters only and submit them for fabrication. As easy as that. So you'll reduce a lot of pressure on you. So you'll be able to keep all the fabricators very busy. Now, having done that, we'll click on OK there and click on empty screen to deselect those highlighted beams or rafters. Then we'll go straight to Gable columns. Gable columns are here. We'll switch back to our grid B. On grid B here, we'll be able to place to see the variance in heights of the gable beams, of the gable columns. Let me go back to isometric view. Then I'll go to steel, pick steel column. I'll zoom and snap on this spot right there. I'll right click and interrupt that just to change the orientation and the size of this column. I'll double click on that. Then I'll come to select. Under select, I'll get a full catalog of various sizes and types of beams here. I'll go straight and pick this. I want a bit smaller. I want 203 by 46 is okay, no problem. Then I'll go ahead and click apply and accept. Modify this, apply. But this is not the particular column I intended to use. I'll go back and change this. I'll go back to universal beam instead of universal columns. I'll wait for the catalog to load. I'll come to universal beams and pick the 203 here. I'll pick that and come here and accept that and give it a node and apply that. Double click and you will be able to check whether you've fed in the right information. We want to change the orientation of this. We want to give it back orientation on that to change to that position. We'll go and do the same thing here. We'll snap on that spot. And we'll be able to snap on this spot. And the rest will just mirror. Then we'll go ahead and now start adjusting the heights of our gable columns, taking into account that the heights of these three columns, the heights vary. Now I'll just double click on that, then zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. You can see from that level it's starting from negative 450, but I want this to start from 00 level to a height of my preference. I can give it a height of 10 meters or 950, 9500. Give it 10, no problem. We'll link that with a tie beam, with the rafter there. Just increase this by 600. It's too high. We can make that 200. Perfect. And we'll come down here and change this height. Just double click on it. Just double click on this and change this to come to position, and let this start from 00 level, and bring this to 8.5 meters. You can change this to 9200. Perfect, and accept that. Then come here and do the same thing. We'll change this to 8.2. We'll come to position and allow this to start from 00 level. Start that from 00 level and take this all the way to 8.5. 8.5. We can reduce that to 8.2, which is no big deal, and accept all that. Now from here we want to change all this. We want now to work on the base plate of the gable columns. Now our next move is quite simple, very simple. We'll switch back to base plate. Back to base plate. Just type base plate or 1014. We'll pick that, and to effect that we have to change this to isometric view. After doing all those, we'll include all these columns into column face. Click on empty screen to deselect this. Now come to that, and we want to place base plates here, right there. That's our base plate. Let's assume we'll use all the same base plates, and do the same thing here. Perfectly done. Now we'll go straight up here, and we want to place the end plates, which will use 144 as its numerical name. We'll pick this and come all the way and click on that, and we'll be able to place our end plate on top here. Now to change or to feed in your right dimensions for this connection, just double click on that yellow cone shaped, then come to Then we'll come to plate. We'll change the thickness to 12 or 16 or 15 is okay. Perfect. Then we'll come to stiffeners. We don't want any stiffener. We don't intend to use any stiffener. No stiffener at all. We don't want to use any stiffener here. Now we'll go straight to bolts, and the bolts we'll use M20 standard 8.8 XOX. We'll use some washers there and set our connections. Let's delete this and zoom that closer so for us to be able to see whatever we are doing. I'll start afresh. I'll change this bolt size to M20 and bring that to 8.8 XOX, and this will be done on site. Thread, yes, we need thread, and this will be done on site, and we prefer that to be in the middle, and we change this to 70. How many bolts do you want? We want 2 bolts at with the center to center of 100. These also must be in the middle, and that's all about this. You can go ahead and click modify and see how it reacts perfectly well. The moment you see this changing to green means things are well done and in the right position. Go ahead and apply and accept. Now, having done all this, the program will assume that this is now your template, and the moment you apply this to the the moment you apply the same connection to beam column, it will just use the same setting. Now I'll go back and click on that, then click this and this. I'll be able to see it has picked everything exactly the same the way we used it initially. Pick that and this. Perfectly well done. Now what we are going to do, we'll close this. Once we've closed that, we want to mirror this end. Now I'll come here and switch to grid B and select everything here and select this. I want to select it accurately without interfering with the grid, because if we select the grid, it might slow down our computer. Pick that, press Ctrl and pick that, press Ctrl and pick this, and note that we've left one step. We've not changed, or we've not given our y axis an orientation that will enable us copy the 3 columns on this end. Now I'll go back to edit, and I'll go back to view. I'll come to work plane tool and snap right here. I'll snap right here, right there, right click and interrupt. And being having seen that our selection is still active, I just go ahead and right click and come to special copy and come to mirror, then zoom closer. I'll zoom closer and snap at a point where I want my mirror line to start and end. I want to start it right from that spot and run all the way to that spot. That's all. I'll go ahead and click copy that and give an OK for that. Then if we zoom out, we'll be able to see everything has been placed in the right position. The end plates have been placed, and the base plates have been placed too. Now I'll just right click and interrupt. Now I'll just go ahead and pick this and that and that. and right click and go to copy and copy it from that spot and move all the way to the other end and copy it here. I'll place this here. Everything will be copied. Now I have my Gable columns placed in the right position. Now if I change the view by double clicking on the screen, then coming to projection here, I come to projection here, and I want to view this under perspective view. I'll click all that, then I'll come to navigate, come to rotate with mouse. I want to rotate this nicely and be able to see what I've done actually, what I've done so far. This is what I've actually done. I can get inside the structure and I'll be able to turn this round like this inside, and I can turn round. I can view the columns as close as I want. I'll turn this round, turn this round like this. Like that. Perfect. Now our next is to place the tie beams in between the columns. Now we want to change back to our orthographic orthogonal view. The orthogonal view, apply and accept that. Perfect. Now it's quite simple as that, and we want to include these two column beams, to columns. Now I'll close this. I'll come to reports and face. I'll come to columns there. I'll pick this. I'll go ahead and select. The columns have been selected. And I also want to include this. In the selection as columns, so that when if I run all the columns, I should not remain with any that have not been worked on when creating a shop drawings. I'll pick that. Click modify, click OK. Now everything has been included in all the columns. Now if I click on an empty screen, everything will be deselected on the side of columns. Now if I go back and confirm that, I'll come to columns, then under columns I'll request Tekla Structures to show me the columns, all the columns. I'll go to objects by face and click on that, and make sure you've highlighted whatever you want here as columns. Now you see that all the columns have been highlighted. Now just a simple click, when I come here, just a simple click, I can run all these at a go and produce those drawings straight away to fabrication team. They will not pile more pressure on me. Actually, you will be able to overwhelm them with all these drawings. Remember the first step, you released 100 base plates. 100 base plates. Imagine working on 100 base plates, taking into consideration that the thickness is 20 millimeter or 15 millimeter thick. To cut that plate into that shape and make those holes drilled properly, you do all the grinding. That takes a bit of time, not a job that you can do in a day, unless you're using the laser cutters, which takes lesser time. If you use laser cutter, that's if you are the person in charge of producing these drawings, you have to approach this in this way, because the laser cutter guy operator will really do this as quick as possible. So you have to give it an approach that you'll be going shoulder to shoulder. Nobody is piling pressure on the other. Now I would request you to, once you've made your model and you want to generate shop drawings, approach it this way by using the faces. You can run your drawing in faces, and you'll be able to work efficiently, and you'll relieve a lot of pressure from your end. And thank you a lot for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel as we go on with lots of tutorial. Remember, if you subscribe, it motivates to upload so many videos, and I'm a presenter